Scientists working on a remote island in Indonesia have made a discovery that changes the story of human evolution. They found the skeletal remains of a new species of human who lived 18,000 years ago at the same time as modern man and measured just 3 feet tall. Her official name is Homo floresiensis, but scientists have nicknamed her the Hobbit. David Shookman has more.
From an island of strange myths comes an even stranger reality tonight. For generations, Flores conjured up folklore about these hills hiding a lost world of miniature people. Well, it seems it was right. Deep in the jungle, researchers exploring this huge cave have unearthed a startling secret, that this was once home to a race of tiny people, nicknamed the Hobbits, a discovery that shatters the standard theory of human evolution. The researchers dug 12 meters into the cave floor. Layer by layer, they reached back 18,000 years and, to their amazement, found a skeleton of a new kind of human. What no one knows is where they came from, and scientists are left bewildered.
Who is this? This is part of us or before us?
An artist's impression shows how they might have looked. Isolated, they evolved in their own way. This exact copy of the skull gives you a sense of how incredibly small this human was, with a brain far tinier than scientists had thought possible for any human being. More remarkable, it only stood about this tall, 1 meter high, a completely undiscovered kind of human living in parallel with our own ancestors. They had the intelligence to make tools, and we also know they hunted and cooked, but they were a different species to us.
It really does give us a picture of a different kind of humanity. The fact that our view of what it is to be human is a very limited view. We've only got one species to judge by. This creature shows us that you can be human, but in a completely different way.
We heard today that the remains of 7 of the little people have been found, which raises a really intriguing question. Are any alive now? It is just about possible. David Shookman, BBC News.
The Thai government has promised to investigate the deaths of 78 demonstrators who are believed to have been crushed or suffocated in army trucks as they were taken for questioning. It happened after a protest in the province of Narathiwat and is the worst incident in the 10 months of violence in Thailand's largely Muslim south. More than 400 people are thought to have died so far. Andrew Harding reports from southern Thailand.
It started with a protest, then a riot. A showdown between Muslim youths and the Thai army. This is a tense region, and it's sliding fast into open warfare. 6 rioters killed, but there was worse to come. These aren't corpses, they're prisoners, but dozens of them are about to die. Stripped and bound, more than 1,000 local men were rounded up by the security forces. This is what the Thais call their iron fist policy. The men were packed into army trucks and piled on top of each other. 78 men suffocated on board. And the response from Thailand's Prime Minister, he's blaming this tragedy on fasting during the holy month of Ramadan and on the weather.
They've been, fast for the whole day and no drink, and they've been on under the sun for several hours.
That attitude appalls Thailand's moderate Muslims. They want respect, not jihad, but they fear government brutality is playing into the hands of regional extremists. This afternoon, a protest against the latest killings, under the watchful eye of the security forces. Scared to reveal his identity, this student simply predicted there will be more bloodshed here.
This is the army base where they're still keeping the dead bodies. There are more people coming in here all the time to try and find out if their relatives are dead or alive. Outside the gates, a real sense of shock, but also something more ominous, a feeling that this country's security problem is spiralling out of control. Andrew Harding, BBC News in southern Thailand.
Heavy wind and rain has been battering the southwest of England with gusts of up to 70 miles per hour. Roads have been closed and high tides have contributed to flooding in several towns along the south coast. From Cornwall, John Kay reports.
2 months after Boscastle, another soaking for the southwest. This, the Cornish village of Porthleven, looking tiny against the swollen sea. Some locals said these were the most dramatic waves they'd ever seen. A combination of gale-force winds and the so-called spring high tide. Ignoring safety advice, hundreds watched from the harbour wall.
Over numerous years, we've lost people off the breakwater, you know, up sort of 5-6 years ago, and we just don't want to happen again. It's not a very nice job to do it.
Sometimes sandbags simply aren't enough. All along the south coast, from Land's End through Devon and Dorset, properties have been flooded. This woman in the Cornish village of Flushing, just one of those now facing the night in temporary accommodation.
The sea level has broken the actual harbour wall and has affected approximately 30 to 40 properties in this main street in Flushing. At the moment, what we've got crews engaged in doing is ensuring that the property's power supplies, electricity has been isolated.
Some seaside towns became no-go zones. It's hard to believe, but a few miles inland, everything was normal. At Dawlish Warren in Devon, where the railway line runs next to the sea, hundreds of rail passengers were left stranded when 2 Virgin trains were trapped by high water.
Even though this weather was forecast, many people here have been shocked by the severity of the storm. It should have left here by tomorrow morning. Only then will the extent of the damage really be known. John Kay, BBC News, Porthleven in Cornwall.
A shop assistant who left school with just a CSE in art looks set to join the ranks of best-selling children's authors J.K. Rowling and Philip Pullman. Until now, Stuart Hill has been earning £11,000 a year working in a bookshop in Leicester. But now that's all set to change with a publishing deal and a possible film too, as Razia Iqbal reports.
Thank you.
From bookseller to potential bestseller.
It's £14.98, please.
Stuart Hill sells books for a living, but in a few months, the books he sells will be the ones he's written. His first novel is tipped to hit the big time. His previous novels had been rejected. This was going to be his last attempt. So how did he react when one publisher said yes?
Terrified, and I still am, and shock at all of the interest. After years of trying and getting nowhere, suddenly there is all this interest, and it's amazing, and it's very difficult to come to terms with. Yeah.
Stuart Hill's The Cry of the Ice Mark won't be available in the bookshops until January next year. But it's already being talked about as the next big thing, not least because the man who publishes this book also discovered J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter novel. And the success of that schoolboy wizard has prompted a golden age in children's publishing. In 1998, sales of children's books totalled £115 million. Last year, that figure hit £175 million. So successful children's books are big business, not least when Hollywood shows an interest.
They're looking for things that the whole family can enjoy and appreciate, and really this is it.
Into the sudden quiet strode the slender figure of Thyryn Freer, strong in the arm Lindenshield. She was wearing a simple
dress. The fantasy Stuart Hill has written is far removed from the back streets of Leicester, where he grew up. And although his life is about to change dramatically, he's quietly determined to stay the same.
I'm just somebody who, during his coffee and tea breaks, would scribble out a story. That's who I am, and that's who I'll always be.
Well, as much as the business of best-selling books will allow him to be. Razia Iqbal, BBC News, Leicester.